Welcome to Treknopod, a seasonal short-form podcast hosted by two dads who love to talk Trek. I'm Captain Schaff, and with me each week, side by side in our co-captain's chairs on the bridge of the USS Treknopod, is Captain Vactor. How are you, Captain Vactor?
I'm doing very well. Woo, we are getting some great Trek content right now.
Yes.
Some great Picard. I can't wait to talk about it with my favorite co-captain, Shaw.
Yes. We're so sorry that we didn't have a podcast last week. For all those who listen to us weekly, thank you so much. And we apologize that we did not have it within us to record. Both of us were sick, which sucked, royally sucked. Full disclaimer, I'm still not feeling 100%, and definitely my voice is a little bit weak, and I will probably cough multiple times like right now throughout this podcast. So I apologize in advance. If there's anything I can cut out in post, I will. But most importantly, we want to get this episode out because we love talking about Picard season 3, and this season has just been dynamite, nonstop dynamite. So, but if you're just joining us and you don't know anything about what we do here at Treknopod, here's a little glimpse. So each week during New Trek TV, and New Trek is basically any of the Trek that's coming on Paramount Plus right now. Obviously, we've got Star Trek Picard, but coming down the pike, a little play on words there. Coming down the pike, we've got Captain Pike and the crew of the USS Enterprise on Strange New Worlds Season 2, which will be coming out in May, I believe.
Oh, man.
If I'm not mistaken. Oh, no, is it May? Is it June? I think it's actually June. It's June.
Oh, okay.
I feel like it's June. They told us dates. Off the top of my head, I'm blanking, but I'll look at them before the end of the podcast and I'll have you the exact dates for you. But yeah, so we've got a lot of great stuff, a lot of new Trek, but we drop a new episode focused on our thoughts of the current Trek TV from the past week. In this case, we're doing Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 8, which is called Surrender. And we're giving you our thoughts and kind of just recapping and sharing some commentary. So, but before we get into that, I thought we'd do a little bit of a show and tell. So I've gotten some things. This past week was my birthday. Yeah. And not just any old day, but a very important date in Star Trek history. First Contact Day, April 5th. That's my birthday, folks. So, which is just wild because here's the really cool part. And I didn't even realize this until Star Trek, like the Instagram account, posted about it. But we are exactly April 5th, 2023 is exactly 40 years until the actual April 5th, 2063, which is when the human race makes first contact with Vulcans. And what's ironic about that is I turned 40 years old on April 5th. So it just lines everything up. And Captain Vactor, I got to say, I felt like so cool. And I felt like part of the Trek like community and Trek lore, just that like I was sharing that synchronicity or whatever you want to call it, like of the numbers and everything. Yeah. Like it was all in alignment. It was so cool.
That is perfect. Schaff was born to be a Trekkie.
That's right. That's right. Born to be a Trekkie. But so like I've gotten a few gifts. I bought myself a few things. I got some stuff for Vactor, but I thought we would go ahead and share. But because I've been chatting and I need a chance to drink some water and not cough in your ear too much, I'm going to let Vactor share what he got recently.
Yeah. So my birthday is next week. Schaff and I are April babies. And I got a gift in the mail. Now, normally when I get a birthday gift, I wait until my birthday. But it was from Captain Schaff, and he said, you have to open this. This is a must open. This box is going to explode if you don't. So I said, all right, I got to do it for Captain Schaff. And my mind was blown. My pants were wet. I had to change my shorts because Schaff knows that I'm a huge Trek fan. You know that I'm a huge Trek fan. Schaff knows I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And he bought me I would say this is the greatest present in the history of birthday gifts, he got me the dark saber. Yeah.
Yes.
And I would say this
the
is
way.
the Force Effects lightsaber. I think I've had a long history with Force Effects lightsabers, going back to, I want to say 2005, where I had an Anakin Force Effects lightsaber. My wife's very first birthday present I got her was a Darth Vader Force Effects lightsaber.
Oh,
Her mind was blown when I got that for her, because the quality and the build of these is so good. You would think this is a real lightsaber. Like, there's weight, there's heft to it, there's metal parts to it. This is no plastic, Shaw. This is not your daddy's lightsaber when we were growing up as kids. So when Shaw got me this, I was thrilled beyond belief, because not only do I love just Force Effects lightsabers in general, this specific lightsaber means a whole lot to me. This dark saber is one that I have been infatuated with since it was created, and since this Force Effects lightsaber was announced. I had pre-ordered this, like, before it came out. This was about 3 years ago. I was like, I have to have this. I have to have this. And when is it going to come out? And they kept pushing back the release date. And then finally it did come out, and I said, all right, let me, maybe I'll hold off on that. I looked at the price tag. I said, maybe I'll hold off on that. But I had it on my wish list for many years now. And I'm so grateful to Captain Schaff that he has now added this to my collection. And the hilt is removable from the blade, and you can just carry it around. I love this. This is my favorite lightsaber of all time. This is my favorite Star Wars piece of memorabilia that I've ever owned. So, Captain Shaw, thank you very much. This was a fantastic birthday present.
Yeah. He can't stop touching his saber. I mean, yeah, you're so welcome. You're so deserving of it. You are an excellent friend. Truly a great friend and a great podcast co-host, and I'm lucky to get to do this with you. So I'm glad that you love it. It's been something I've been wanting to do for you for months now. So I'm so glad it all like happened the way it did. And then to happen on Star Wars Celebration weekend is even better. Like, I didn't actually plan that, but that just worked out really great.
And my son Ezra loves this lightsaber. Like, he saw me ignite it, and his face lit up like it was Christmas.
True.
And that face made me happy. Like, I couldn't tell who liked it more, me or him. So that is a bonus that Schaff has given. Another gift to me was me seeing my son's reaction. So that was, I think, just as good as me seeing it was seeing his face when he saw it.
I'm so glad. Yeah, we obviously we're a Trek podcast, but we appreciate anything Star related, and Star Wars is awesome too. Arguably, though, the Trekkie fans are far less toxic than Star Wars fans, but we are equally fans of Star Wars, and we definitely don't subscribe to any toxicity of any kind. So yeah, but so glad that you love the gift. I got some cool stuff.
Yeah.
I think we may have mentioned it before, but gosh, what's the name of this company?
Master Replicas.
Thank you. Master Replicas basically bought the entire like collection of Eagle Moss, the remaining of Eagle Moss's various starships, and we wanted to try to like get in on that and get some of these really cool models. And I got myself, and I got one for Vactor, the USS Defiant, which looks awesome. I have not taken it out of the box yet, but it is very, very cool. I cannot wait to display it. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to look great on Vactor's shelf. By the way, for anybody who's listening to our podcast but not watching our podcast, and maybe you don't know this, but we actually have a video version of the podcast, and we post the episodes on YouTube. So a lot of what we're doing right now with the show and tell, yeah, you can hear it, but it's not doing it justice. So go ahead and check out our episode on YouTube, because you'll get the full experience, which will give you, first of all, a good look at our very handsome faces. I'm currently in my birthday suit because it was my birthday. So you'll get to see me totally in the nude. So, I mean, if you've liked the voice, then you'll like the body too.
This is worth the price of admission right now. Shoff, worth the subscription.
That's right. That's right. So in addition to the Defiant, I went ahead and splurged and got the Enterprise E, which there you can kind of see that right there. I'm going to open it up because this thing is substantial. This thing is, I did not expect the weight. I didn't really know what I was expecting, but I just know that these are very like well appreciated collectibles, but I did not expect it to be this heavy. Check this sucker out. Oh, it's gorgeous. The Sovereign class Enterprise E. This is by far my favorite of the Enterprises.
Nice.
I mean, I love all Enterprises. They're great, but Enterprise E was just so sleek. So sleek. I love those nacelles. Those are so, or nacelles. That's a good question. Are you a nacelle or nacelle pronunciation? What would you say back?
Nacelle. That's
nacelle.
How
Okay, I'm a nacelle guy, so we'll put it out to the Trek audience. Is it nacelle or nacelle?
Yeah.
Curious. Very curious.
Update, Shoff. June 15th is the Strange New World Season 2
June
premiere.
15th. Excellent. Oh, can't wait. That'll be the next one that we cover. Going to be really exciting. So we got, oh my gosh, we got some really cool stuff.
This is a great day, Shoff.
What's that?
This is a great day.
Great day. Great day. Great week. Absolutely. We're lucky to be alive. Lucky to be alive because Star Trek Picard is killing it right now. This season is amazing. So what do you say we get into our weekly mission with our episode discussion?
Yeah.
So we're covering season 3, episode 8 called Surrender. It first aired on the day after my birthday, the day after First Contact, April 6th. It was directed by Deborah Kampmeyer and written by Matt Okumura. I always struggle with names, but I also just try to make it fun. With that in mind, we're going to throw up a quick red alert because we do not want to spoil you on anything about this episode or any others. Now, we did not get a chance to talk about last week's episode, and we're not going to really have time to talk about it this week, but just know that it was another banger in a series of bangers. It was excellent. So the synopsis for this episode is as follows. Crippled, cornered, and out of options, Picard stages a gambit to trap Vadic and reveal her true motive, a gamble that puts the Titan in the crosshairs and forces Picard and Beverly to question every moral code they've ever held. Whew. Oh, dang. So, first of all, what'd you think?
Another great episode. This was one that I'm getting to the point where I really want to know what's behind this red door. I want to know what is going on with Jack Crusher. And that is like 50% of my focus. And then the other 50% is the TNG crew. So this episode got both, filled both of those needs for me. And I really want to see how this concludes. Like, if they stick the landing, which I think they do, because I've heard from people who have seen advanced copies that this season finishes with a bang. This is, I think, going to be one of my all-time favorite Trek seasons. Just this in general is like, it was worth going through seasons 1 and 2 to get season 3 of Picard. I just like with The Mandalorian, I don't understand if people do not like Star Trek Picard season 3. I do not get it. You and I are not the same. If you don't like Picard season 3, not there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just loving it. So this was just another great episode. Shoff, what did you think?
Oh, I loved it. I loved everything about this episode. I thought it was fantastic. It really continued the trend, and there were a lot of great moments. There were also a lot of great reunions. This was a very emotionally charged episode.
And that was
a
what
lot of great like 2-player moments where it was like, say, Riker Troi, and they had a really awesome like moment together. And then you've got Data and Geordi. You've got Data and Lore. You've got Picard and Data. You've got all these great moments. You've got Jack Crusher and Troi. Like, there's so many great pairings that happen, and I was just living for all of these really calculated and careful moments that have sort of earned the reverence because of how great these characters are. So, gosh, I guess as far as like where to start, and like what pairing we should talk about first, I want to talk a little bit about the Riker Troi scene. So we get to see, obviously, they're both being held captive by the changeling crew on the Shrike, which, by the way, just a total side note, but why are they wearing masks still at this point? Like, what is that about? If they are changelings, like, why are we not seeing their faces? And or are those their faces? And if so, why are those their faces? Because we've seen what changelings look like otherwise.
I thought anytime I've seen those guys, they were hired guns, like they were hired crew members. So I've also confused on that. And I don't remember if they've specifically said that they are changelings. We've seen the ones that have been impersonating Starfleet and impersonating the crew. We've seen those ones. But yeah, specifically the ones with the masks, I don't know what the goal is behind that, because it's something obviously to tell the audience something like, oh, these are the bad guys,
right? But, yeah,
like maybe it's something what they didn't want to do that many changeling makeups, like to have that many. I don't know the actual reason, but it is kind of strange to me also.
Yeah, and if they're a different alien race, we've never seen them before, like that to me like requires a little bit of an explanation or giving them a label of some kind.
Well, I wonder if
otherwise
that's
we're just going unnamed. So
whoever the big bad is, we still don't really know that person's origin or their race.
True.
So I wonder if these guys are that same race. They're
That'd be
just a lesser class.
I mean, in the idea of the Dominion, like they had the Vorta class, they had the Jem'Hadar as like their soldiers, So I feel like, I mean, it could sort of be like the replacement for the Jem'Hadar, but I don't know. Like, I just find that a little bit interesting, and I wish they would kind of go in a little more detail on that.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we get a few more answers on these henchmen. But regardless of that, the Riker and Troi are held captive, and they're talking to each other, and they're sort of hashing out what's really been weighing on their minds, and what's been like the hurdle for them in their relationship, which is grief, which is, I mean, it's not uncommon when you lose a child that married couple does not last. That there's a very high divorce rate and a separation rate for broken families like that. And I can just speak from experience. I didn't think that my parents were going to make it when my twin sister was killed in a car accident when we were 15. And I mean, I know they've been through a lot, and to put it in perspective, and you've got Riker and Troi is a Beta Z, and so she's an empath. So not only is she feeling her own emotions about the thing, but she's feeling them about everyone in the family. Like, that's overwhelming. That's crazy. And then she was trying to basically help her husband, William Riker, by sort of like pushing the grief like down and away, like trying to like sort of like absorb it or mask it. And so he was kind of like dead inside, like, and it took the bleakness, as he said, before he like really like saw and could experience those emotions in reality, and sort of getting away from her. He was able to do that, and it gave him the perspective he needed. Man, that was such a powerful scene between the two of them. They were so amazing together, and they have so much chemistry together. It's so incredible to watch. What did you think of that one?
Yeah, that was a great scene between two great Trek actors. I'm I'm just kind of wondering, I guess this late in the series, because we're almost done with this entire series. The first season is when we saw them on the other planet, right? It wasn't the second season. It was the first.
That's true. First
Yes.
season. Mm-hmm.
That season, I thought they had resolved everything, and their relationship was great. And then when we picked up with them this season, they were kind of like separated, and it was like, oh, that's kind of strange. It just feels like a little late to come together right before the end of the series. So I'm not 100% sure why they added that, because, like I said, the first season seemed to wrap their storyline up, I thought. So I just thought it was, I wonder if they would have placed this either in season 2 or in season 1, have them start off, we first see them apart and then they come together. I wonder if that would have made it more satisfying for me for their relationship. But it doesn't take away from that scene of them coming together. So I thought that was great.
You bring up a good point. I think probably, a lot of times with grief and stuff, you don't necessarily go through the stages in any specific order, right? So like, they might have been in a sense of denial or shock. And so like they're, the way that they're existing on that planet and making a pizza, and just like having a seemingly okay time. Obviously we only saw a glimpse of them, and it's kind of, to me, it's kind of like, Instagram or whatever social media, like you put out a picture of you smiling and everyone thinks life is okay. But in those moments between posts, like, what is your life like? So I think we just didn't get a full glimpse of what the pain that they're experiencing and what they're doing with the pain, or how they're struggling through it. I'm glad they mentioned their daughter in this episode, because I was like, is anybody going to talk about the fact that Kestra is still just on the planet by herself? So that was good. But it was just a really powerful moment for them, and solidified them as the couple that we always wanted them to get together. And it was interesting, I was watching the Ready Room, and they were talking about how the suits, the producers and stuff, had no intentions of them getting together, but it was Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis, they were the ones sort of like engineering this romance and making this relationship happen by like adding bits of them holding hands or acknowledging, like doing stuff in scenes that they couldn't cut the scenes because they already had like other people in the scenes with them and stuff. Like they really made Riker and Troi happen as much as the fans wanted it to happen. They really helped that process happen.
And I also loved the Worf Troi reunion when they saw each other. I actually forgot that they had a little brief romance.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh yeah, this is some awkward tension. And
it sure was. I loved Riker. He's like, is this still part of the torture?
Yeah. What? That comedy made me laugh like out loud. My wife was like, what are you laughing at? I was like, yeah, this is great. So calling back the memories of the TNG fans. And that's what this whole season has been great, because they've been able to do that balancing act of the nostalgia and the fan, the giving the TNG fans what they've wanted, and then also still pushing the story forward, still progressing this Starfleet changeling conspiracy that's been going on. It's like both of these storylines have been great. So, and we'll talk about Data in a second here, but all of the cast has had something to do, and having that cast reunion of everyone coming together at the end, I was like,
oh, at the table? Gosh, yes, I loved that.
That was fantastic. I was like, where's Will Wheaton? I want to get everybody together. Call him off the Ready Room, bring him on here. But that was just a great moment for me. And it's like, I think TNG is going to go down as the greatest Star Trek show of all time. And a large part was the storytelling, but then another huge part of it was just the cast. Like they got a fantastic cast for TNG. And it's crazy to look back on it, 30, 40 years later, and you see this was not something that was guaranteed to work. Looking back on TNG and them rebooting Star Trek like that, if TNG was not successful, I don't think we would have gotten the rest of the shows. And
no,
it's just it's a testament to that cast and that crew that put TNG together. They still resonate with all of us fans in our hearts and our minds, and it's inspired so many other things. And I think that's a huge reason why these current new Treks, I think a lot of them are referencing TNG, and they're in this TNG time period, Lower Decks and then Picard. Like they're adjacent to TNG, and it's not 100 years in the future, 100 years in the past necessarily. So I think that means something, and I think that's a huge reason why this season of Picard is the most successful, and I think is going to be one of my favorite seasons of all time, is because of like you mentioned it earlier in the episode, just the reverence that we have for Next Gen, and that's what got me into Star Trek.
Totally.
It wasn't the original series, it was TNG.
I agree. I wish my uncle was still alive, because he got me into Star Trek, and he was the one who introduced me to Next Generation and watching those episodes. And I think if he were alive today, man, he would be just so elated to be watching such great television, top to bottom. The writing, the acting, the sets, the effects, everything is top notch. Everything is just balls to the wall. I've loved it, and man, it's going to be hard to say goodbye to this show, because we're not just saying goodbye to a great show, but we're saying potentially goodbye to, and this being a true farewell,
yes,
to this TNG cast. And I wanted to bring up something. I didn't put this on the agenda for us, but I wanted to talk about it because I've seen things on TikTok and in the Trek Talk community and stuff, and some say that there's too much nostalgia baiting in this season. And to that, I say, what did you expect? This is a farewell season of a show about a character who much later in his life, but it's about his crew. It's about his TNG crew. Of course, there's going to be plenty of nostalgia, and I think the only reason it's successful is because they're leaning on what made the show great in the first place. So, because the first and second season of Picard are not terrible seasons, but they're missing a very critical element of why Captain Picard is such a great character. And that's because of who he was surrounded by. And now this third season really captured that. And so, like, I don't have any issue whatsoever with this nostalgia. I don't consider it baiting. I just think it's, like we've said, it's holding reverence. It's a tribute. It's what the fans deserve, I think.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to not enjoy the references and the homages to not only TNG, but all of Trek. We saw it with the museum, and we saw there's been so many Wrath of Khan references in this season. There's been so many Undiscovered Country and a lot of the original cast movies, and then the TNG cast. So I don't get it. The name of the show is Star Trek Picard. You should be understanding that you're going to go into it getting this type of nostalgia. And like you said, this being the finale for the TNG crew. And I think just because of their age, they're not going to be anything else after this. This is going to be the finale for this crew. So this is turning out to be a great send off. Like I said, we've still got 2 more episodes left. So if they can stick the landing, this is going to be a fitting tribute to a great cast and just a great piece of Star Trek lore.
Yeah. Speaking of which, good segue. Data versus lore. We get the ultimate in digital battles because in the positronic playground, if you will, Data and lore are vying for the dominion over this it's not an android body, it's a positronic human body, similar to Jean-Luc Picard as he is now, but they're both equally wanting to exist, but they cannot coexist with this because lore is such a dynamic. I think that if lore were not such a dynamic personality wanting to consume and overcome, I think they probably could have coexisted. I think they could have shared the body, but I think lore sort of indicated that it's going down. It's either me or you. Like, there's no way out of this. And at first I was like, oh man, is this really going to go down this way? And then I thought to myself, there's not in a reunion farewell season, the end all be all of Data. We've already seen him die twice. We're going to see him die a third time. No. What's going to happen? It's going to subvert our expectations. Yes. But ultimately we find out, just the value and what it means to be human, right? Like, this is an artificial body. This is an artificial mind, but the idea of memories and what makes you a person, like, had such an important role in defining Data's humanity that it ultimately ended up being his ticket to freedom from lore's advances, I guess you could say. I don't know, what'd you think about that scene?
Yeah, I figured he was tricking lore. The thing that they got me when Geordi was like, well, he's gone. I was like, whoa, they did it. They're actually going to do it. But in my mind, in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, he's tricking him. He's going to do something. And I didn't see the memories being the way out. So that was great. And I love the back and forth between Brent Spiner playing himself, like playing two different characters. And you saw it on the Ready Room. There's a great history of Brent Spiner playing other characters and Sung relatives and things. So he's a great actor, and I think this is a good retrospective and look back and say, hey, look, Brent Spiner's been putting in great work and in multiple shows. I think I told you before, I've never seen Enterprise. I didn't know he was on Enterprise. I didn't know that there was so much Brent Spiner out there, but he was always my favorite character on TNG when I was a kid. And I think I didn't realize it at the time. His performance is so great. I was just like, oh, it's a robot. It's an android. So that's futuristic to me. Anything futuristic I was attracted to. So I was like, yeah, he's a computer. He could do all this stuff. He's got all these advantages. But this is a great send-off for Data. And that moment when he got control of the ship, it was just like, yeah, that was a great build-up. Because you were like, they teased it for so long, and then they finally gave it to you. Like, yeah, give it to him. So, yeah, the way this episode ended, and unfortunately, it had to end badly for Vatic, but this was a great build up to that point.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't agree more. I will miss lore, but I love that in that brief final moment, there was an understanding. Like, they both got it, that lore understood what Data was trying to get at all along. And Data also had a moment of reconciliation with lore too. I mean, it was such a beautifully written, beautifully acted moment. I loved it. And like you said, we had to say goodbye to Vatic. And I can't help but take a moment and recognize the contributions of Amanda Plummer in this show. You were showing me a text. One of your friends was a little bit, felt that she was chewing up the scenery a little too much in previous episodes. I agree with most of what your friend was saying, except for that I feel like she was every bit as menacing as an antagonist needed to be in that capacity. She was interesting in every scene. She kept your attention. She was compelling. She had mysterious motives that we still don't fully understand. She had more information about Jack than we do, but we're not going to get it from her. We're going to get it from a different source, from the help of Deanna Troi. But man, she was so great as Vadic. And seeing that she, from last week's episode that we didn't get to talk about, she took on the face of her torturer, of the person who was working at Daystrom Station and doing these experiments on her and such. Like, man, that was just another layer that I didn't expect. And that was really, really cool.
Right. Because those are always the best villains, where it's not just mustache twirling and they don't have any, like, you don't have any sympathy for them or empathy. It's the ones that are not black and white. They're a shade of gray. And she was definitely, with that episode specifically, that's when we got to find out, oh, she does have more depth to her character. And there is some other things going on. You can sympathize with her plight and where she came from, what odds she had to overcome. So yeah, that was, I kind of wish she was the big bad. If this was like a movie, I wish she was the big villain, but we will, I cannot, disagree with anything you said. I think her contributions to this season were really, fantastic, just because she seems so insurmountable. And that's always like the best Trek villains. It's like, how are they going to beat this person? So, when she got ejected into space, I was like, no, they can't kill Vadic. They can't kill this great villain. And then when she shattered, I was like, oh, I guess they can.
And she's okay. They'll suck up all the Vadic pieces, and then she'll coalesce again.
Like the T-1000.
Yeah. She's not gone. She's gonna get sucked into a black hole, but she'll be okay.
Yeah. But yeah, she did a great job.
Yeah. And yeah, like you said, we don't know this floating head. I don't even have any theories. I usually am full of theories. I'm like, oh, it's probably this person, probably whatever. I have no freaking clue who is calling the shots on this.
I'm the same way.
And that's just like wild to me that we only had 2 episodes left. And I couldn't tell you. I also have no idea who the heck Jack Crusher is. Like, what is he?
Yeah.
That he has these abilities. At first I was like, oh, he's a changeling sleeper agent or something. But no, it doesn't seem like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that would still be a shocker, but it feels like there's something else. I don't know what it is, but
yeah, I hope it's something that, when we look at it, we're like, oh, this is great. This is something brand new we've never seen before. I don't think it's just simply, oh yeah, he's a changeling. And that was the whole thing the whole time. They did experiments on him and turned him into a changeling or something like that. I think there is going to be something that we just don't know at this point. Like, I don't even know if we could predict it. They're just going to come out of left field with something. So Terry Metalis, don't let me down.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it has something to do with the Irumodic syndrome. I don't know, but they keep talking about that. Keep bringing it up. Obviously, it's all going to come to a head with Frontier Day, which is, as they keep saying, hours away. But I don't know. We know that Troi and Crusher are working. I shouldn't say Crusher. I say Jack. Are going to be working together in a version of an empathic. I don't know, dream walking or whatever, but they're going to try and figure it out. And it seems like they're going to walk through that red door and find out the answers. So I would assume that by next week we'll know. It'll be because I mean, I doubt they're going to save that kind of a reveal for the season finale, which to me, penultimate episodes are always the bigger episodes. The episode 9s of 10s are always like, that's the real climax. the episode 10s, that's the resolution. That's how is this ultimately getting tied up with a bow? And that, when you have the cast being this farewell thing, like, you're going to be devoting a good portion of the episode to like their various goodbyes or whatever it's going to be. So I feel like next week's episode is going to be the real, like, oh my gosh, episode. So,
I can't wait.
Whew. The last thing I wanted to say, and I didn't put this on the agenda either, but I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it today because, Vactor introduced me, Vactor and my former co-host from Geek So to Speak back in the day, Wonder Rob. They're my two best friends, but they were introducing me to lo-fi, which is a type of like hip hop music, but it's how would you describe it? I'm not really good at describing it.
Well, it's relaxation music.
Okay.
It's something that you put
Very
on.
chill.
Yeah. To think of like a coffee shop. That's the way that it's advertised a lot of times, is lo-fi music. Like, it's like a coffee shop, and it's music that you put on just to unwind and relax to.
Yeah. So, Vactor and Wonder Rob, they were telling me about lo-fi, and also I was looking up stuff. They were linking up various videos on YouTube that had some great, like, 60-minute long tracks that are just like easy listening. And some of it was Star Trek, some of it was Super Mario, some of it was Star Wars. And I was thinking, I wonder if Star Trek or Star Wars would have been as successful had they not had such remarkable music.
Ooh, yeah.
And I was like, man, part of what makes Star Trek so great, like, Picard this season has been full of amazing music. Like, I don't normally want the scores of shows I watch. Like, that does not happen. But this season, I wanted to buy that vinyl so bad, and it was the pre-orders were like sold out in seconds. So I got to find it somehow, but I have got to get my hands on this season. This season's score. It's so good. And I was just thinking, like, is that part of why Trek is so great? It's the music. And I wanted to ask you, pose that question to you. What do you think?
Yeah, they've had some great music over the years, from the show's theme songs to the movies. They've had some fantastic composers come in and work on Trek. And that is, I think, always an essential part of movies and television, is the music. That's something that it's just as important as what we're seeing as what we're hearing. And the iconic theme of Star Trek, the original song, that is something that is ingrained in our brains. And even with this season, we have the TNG score injected into the intro a little bit. And before, we hadn't had that in the seasons 1 and 2 of Picard. So I think you're definitely onto something, no matter what the franchise, whether it's Battlestar Galactica, whether it's Star Trek, Star Wars, Stargate. I think music is an essential piece to the overall puzzle of just pulling at your emotions, making you feel something. Music is so powerful at doing that. So I think Trek is it has benefited greatly to great composers coming in. So yeah, this season for sure. I think Jeff Russo is the composer this season.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Man, he's done an excellent job of really finding a nice balance between what already exists and making it fresh. Really great stuff. By the way, I don't know how I did this, but maybe it's because we didn't cover last week's episode, but I had the wrong synopsis up for the episode. Not that it matters at this point, but because maybe our hardcore Trekkie fans caught that I was reading the wrong synopsis. I'm going to read the correct one just to, so we don't get hate mail or something like that. But it is Vadic forces Picard to make an impossible choice: deliver what he can never give or watch his crew perish. Their only salvation lies in the mind of an old friend and old foe. And of course, we were talking about Data and Lore. So but I've been thinking about that for half the episode. And I'm like, I don't think I read the right one. I'm pretty sure that's not the right synopsis. That sounds like Dominion. That sounds like last week's episode.
Well,
so yeah, just want to throw that out there. I apologize.
Don't feel bad, Shuff, because I'm just doing a little bit of research here. Jeff Russo was the composer on seasons 1 and 2 of Picard, but season 3 had 2 new composers come in, Stephen Barton and Frederick either Weidman or Weidman. So if you want the season 3 soundtrack, it is going to be Barton and Weidman, not Jeff Russo. So that was my fault.
Well, look at that. See, you know what? We're just honest kids. We just want to communicate the facts, and if we don't know them, we'll figure them out. So yeah. But anyways, thank you so much for joining us on episode 50. Can you believe it, folks? We started this podcast last year for actually Star Trek Picard season 2. That first episode, that was technically, I think, the second episode of our show, because our first episode was just sort of like getting to know us. But that's what started it all. We were like, there's a new Trek on TV, and we were just dying to watch some Trek together, have a conversation about Trek as weekly or as often as possible. And we've been able to watch a lot of great shows. Let's see, Star Trek Picard season 2. We've watched Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, Prodigy.
Man.
We're on Star Trek Picard season 3. We've even gone back and we've rewatched Discovery season 1. We're in the midst of season 2. Vactor's watching it for the first time. We've also been reviewing and doing commentary episodes for Star Trek films. And we're not stopping there. We just had to take a little bit of a break from a scheduling perspective, but we will have Star Trek 5 eventually. But man, we've just had a lot of fun, and thank you so much for joining us as we celebrate episode 50. Now, if you are looking to find us on our various social media handles, we have trimmed the fat. We are no longer on Instagram or Twitter. I don't think our profiles still exist, but if they do, we won't be posting anything to them. We're sort of sticking and posting exclusively to TikTok and to YouTube. So, of course, if you're listening to us on various podcast catchers, you're going to find us there too, because we do put out an audio version of the pod. But for as far as our social media and stuff, look for us on TikTok and YouTube at Treknopod, TREKNOPOD. And of course, please subscribe to us on those various channels. We would love your support if you would follow us, and of course, engagement too. I mean, we love chatting with our fans, and we do a lot of that on TikTok, and we're and as well as YouTube. But I would say TikTok, definitely we have a great community built up, and a lot of people who are very supportive and communicative too, and we love that. So if you haven't yet done so, maybe you've been listening to us, but you just haven't taken a moment to rate us or review us. It does help our podcast. It brings us up in the rankings so that we get seen by more people. It pushes us out to more people. So on Apple Podcasts, you can go ahead and rate us and review us. On Spotify, you can leave us a rating of 5 stars. And at the bottom, there's a link to Spotify for podcasters, and that will allow you to leave us a voicemail, which is really, really cool. So did I forget anything, Vactor?
I think you got it all, Sean.
Okay, great. Now, next week, we're going to continue with our ongoing recap and review of Star Trek Picard Season 3. This is going to be the penultimate episode, episode 9. I believe it's called Vox, but don't quote me on that. Because the last 2 episodes, I think, are Vox and The Last Generation. So, very exciting. But with that in mind, I believe our mission of the week is complete. Now, boldly go and have a great week.
Live long and prosper.
Yeah.